Loyalty, deception, honor, and betrayal. The game begins anew when the epic series Game of Thrones returns. Just one part of your free preview of HBO Max. You'll experience all the must-see originals and the biggest Hollywood movies you won't want to miss. Watch it all anytime. There's nothing else like it. Don't miss a free preview of HBO Max Friday, March 29th until Monday, April 1st. Sign up for HBO and Max and get your first month free. Call 601-8992 or visit cablebahamas.com to subscribe today.
Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned in to NB12 broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, a guilty verdict in the Prince Hepburn trial. We've got reactions. BTC talks could soon come to a head. Embattled athlete Stephen Newbold to participate in the upcoming Carifta Games. Plus, the confiscated asset fund set to be drying up. I'm Juanita Toot, and NB12 starts right now. Topping news tonight, it took less than 90 minutes for the 12-member jury in the Prince Hepburn trial to find him guilty of murder today. The contractor was on trial for the brutal murder of Nellie Mae Brown Cox in April 2011. Paige McCartney was at the Supreme Court today and filed this report.
Hepburn sat stoically in court today as the guilty verdict was read. Although he admitted to the chopping death of Brown Cox in April 2011, the defense failed in its argument that Hepburn had a temporary psychotic break, convicting him of murder rather than manslaughter. But satisfied with the outcome were Nellie Mae Brown Cox's family and friends. Linda LaFleur, who worked with Brown Cox on the Sir Victor Sassoon Heart Foundation Committee, said she and others are at ease now, knowing that Hepburn is being held accountable.
Well, you know, you were hearing all during the trial and all that, but they'll get him off for insanity and stuff like that and all like that. You know, you were hearing all these different views what the lawyers were coming up with. And, you know, you always had that in the back of your mind, but I always felt that justice would have been served. And today, my feelings came to fruition that justice was duly served.
LaFleur said although she knows it will take time, at least Brown Cox's two daughters and mother can start to rebuild their lives with this now all behind them.
And I am happy for them now. They can really, and her mummy, they can really put some closure to this and get on with their lives. Because, you know, you had this hanging over them for the last 2 years. It was really terrible. You know, they couldn't really, you know, you really can't do anything.
But it's not the end, according to Hepburn's attorney Muriel Ducille, who said he intends to make application for an appeal as early as tomorrow morning, maintaining that his client had diminished responsibility when he committed the crime. Shortly after the verdict was read this afternoon, Ducille said he was not happy with the outcome.
Again, as I say, that's their verdict, and whatever we have to do, we have to do, and deal with a body which we consider to be extremely objective, impartial, and learned.
In fact, the attorney believes that there were external influences that impacted the jury's verdict. He said he believes the rush to have the matter concluded before the Easter holiday, coupled with the high publicity of the matter, played a big role.
It was so notorious. In the initial stages, photographs were leaked. And actually, these things were on the internet, so it means it went beyond the confines of the Bahamas. So on the face of it, there was really much negative publicity insofar as this case is concerned.
Ducille said the defense's position remains the same, that the act, though horrific, was out of character for the defendant and he should not be convicted of murder but rather manslaughter. Ducille said despite today's outcome, Hepburn has a calm demeanor.
He's very calm. He remains calm. He believes in the system. And he's not saying that he ought not to suffer any responsibility. But what he's saying, look, this is totally out of character. I didn't even know that this situation had happened.
The prosecution is not seeking the death penalty in this case, and sentencing has been set for May 22nd. Justice Indra Charles ordered a psychological and social inquiry report on Hepburn to be submitted by April 30th. But as this matter now moves forward to sentencing and then appeal, LaFleur said the memory of Brown Cox should not be what has been reported over the past 2 years.
Well, I will always remember her as that person that was so full of life, so giving and caring, and always on the move.
Reporting for NB12, I'm Paige McCartney.
Nearly 1 year since coming to office, the Christie administration still hasn't been able to deliver on its pledge to regain the majority share of the Bahamas Telecommunications Company. However, Prime Minister Perry Christie is hoping that will soon change. He revealed today that executives from Cable and Wireless Communications will travel to the Bahamas in the very near future to attend what he called the meeting. He also warned that it's in both parties' best interest to wrap up this matter before the cellular market opens up in 1 year.
Arrangements are being made for me to meet with the chairman, with a very senior officer of Cable and Wireless. That is something that has been organized, and I look forward to that.
Despite assurances from government's lead negotiator that efforts to acquire majority control of BTC are far from dead, Cable and Wireless Communications has refused to budge from its position up to this point. The telecoms giant has made it clear it has no desire to sell 2% of BTC shares to government. However, months of negotiations between the two sides could finally come to a head when senior CWC executives meet with Prime Minister Christie. He told NB12 top on the agenda is those stalled negotiations.
Yes, concerning everything.
So you're going to lay out your cards on the table?
It's a meeting we must have.
When?
And I have no doubt that this is the meeting we must have.
The meeting?
Pardon me? This is the meeting. Yeah, this is the meeting we must have.
Christie could not say when that important meeting would take place, insisting it would happen in the immediate future.
The BTC leadership, the cable and wireless part of it, must know that as Prime Minister, up to this point, I have done everything, right, consistent with the protecting the 49% ownership of the Bahamian people, and that should be important to them, and they must know what I mean by that. I mean, I just want to say that they must particularly know what it means on that. And the longer we wait, the nearer we get to competition and liberalization. As you know, by the end of April next year, liberalization is to take place. We will be free by the agreement to begin that process, and time is moving very quickly.
This latest development comes more than a month after the Prime Minister admitted that government cannot afford to purchase those 2 additional shares. However, he made it clear at the time it would not abandon its efforts. Christie also revealed today that despite opposition from CWC, former BTC boss Leon Williams was appointed the 3rd government director on BTC's board about a month ago.
I always wanted to name Leon Williams because Leon Williams was the defining leader when the Progressive Liberal Party was in power to the board. I have named him, and he is now a member of the board. They talk about conflict, they talk about that. We've investigated, we looked at it, we saw nothing to cause us to believe that.
Bradley Roberts and Rowena Bethel are the other 2 government directors on BTC's board. He's facing criminal charges in the United States, but Bahamian track star Stephen Newbold has the full support of the Bahamas Association of Athletic Associations. In fact, officials say they look forward to the athletes' participation in the 42nd BTC Carifta Games, which officially opens in 2 days. Celeste Nixon has more in this report.
B3's president, Mike Sands, says Newbold is innocent until proven guilty, and the charges he is currently facing in Florida will not prevent him from competing in this weekend's Carifta Games.
There's no basis for him to even be considered to be suspended, because first of all, to suspend him is a presumption of guilt versus innocence. And so beyond that, there's the presumption of innocence, and the fact that he has been granted bail, which is a public knowledge and public information, and the fact that he is a Bahamian citizen, and the fact that he has duly qualified for the Carifta team, the question doesn't arise. But at this point, the team Bahamas, and certainly the B3s, stands by him on the presumption of innocence.
Newbold, 18, and fellow Florida State University athlete Josh Manis were arrested in the early hours of Thursday morning after police responded to claims of gunshots being fired near the pool of a Campus Walk apartment complex. Newbold was charged with disarming a firearm in public and resisting arrest without violence. After spending Thursday night in Leon County Jail, the country's top junior quarter-miler was released Friday morning on a $1,000 bond. A Florida judge ordered him to turn over any firearms in his possession. However, Newbold has consistently contended that he never carried a gun or fired a gun on the night in question, although a witness has identified him as a shooter. Sands also stressed that Newbold will be treated the same as every other athlete. Sands says right now the association is concentrating on preparing the athletes for the meet.
But at this juncture, with 54 hours or thereabouts to go to the Crafty Games, the only thing on my mind right now is getting Stephen home, getting all the other athletes, and Stephen is treated no different than any other athlete that's in the U.S. Question of what is happening now, extracurricular activity, is not even going to rise because we want to address it. All we want to do is determine our strategy to ensure that Team Bahamas performs well as Team Bahamas, whether we were away, but particularly on the fact that we are on home soil.
When asked if the association would impose any penalties on Newbold if he's found guilty, Sands says he could not speculate on the matter.
And we have to take it one day at a time, and we have to determine, what the end result will be, or whatever the final decision is in. Then, of course, we have to address it on the basis of that.
Newbold is a 5-time Carifta medalist and will represent the Bahamas in the under-20 boys 400 meters and 200 meters this weekend. Reporting for NB12, I'm Celeste Nixon.
You're watching the best in Bahamian news. There's more when NB12 returns.